All right, listen, guys, we're talking about Jake Munro today. Jake Munro, goth, moron, blowhard, idiot, edgelord, tryhard, everything. We were ahead of the curve when it comes to Jake Munro hate on this channel, ahead of my time. I know it's true, but Jake Munro has been a busy bee as of late. Not just this jokester who weirdly hates on alternative women constantly on the internet and on social media. Not just an annoying little Timcast guest saying a lot of inaccurate BS about how apolitical goth and alternative culture is or was until leftists took it over. But Jake Munro has really been like pushing himself out there, especially on platforms like Twitter, where he knows a lot of right-wing BS is going to be polarizing, going to gain him traction. And I thought because he's been so busy, it might be worth to go back into some of his dumbass talking points, because he's really trying to make a name for himself in the right-wing, talking head sphere, and doing so quite unsuccessfully and hilariously, in my opinion. Yeah, this profile picture over here is quite the statement. It really is quite the statement. The fake jagged teeth as well. He's such a scary guy. He's so scary. When again, Austen will throw this up on the screen in post, but he literally just looks like the I Love Turtles kid. He just looks like the I Love Turtles meme kid. So with that being said, I thought we would look at a few videos from Jake and sort of see what he's saying. I haven't even played some of these yet. Just the titles were grabbing my attention. Also loving the knives. Ooh. Look at all the places he could be seen with the URLs, or rather the screen handles on the knives jutting out of the left side of the screen. Fighting Gothgate and making goth great again. It's just very funny because if you guys saw my video talking to some of the points he was making on Tim Pool's podcast, he seems to envision this past where goth culture and queer culture just like don't intersect, and there's no like LGBTQ presence within goth. And I guess I could sort of like maybe slightly sort of understand that point of view if your introduction into goth culture was like edgy industrial goth metal in the 2000s. If like that's how you got into it, and that's like all you know of goth history and all you know of goth culture, I could sort of see how in those spaces you purely read, goth music is like, and goth culture is a little more male centric, and maybe even slightly like, edgy and macho in some respects. But like when you go back really to the past and like the earliest and most influential and significant bands within goth, and we're talking about Susie and the Banshees, we're talking about, The Cure, we're talking about Soft Cell, there's a lot of elements of goth culture that are quite queer friendly and literally related to the queer community. Here's Jake.
Metalgate and Comicsgate. So are we in Gothgate?
We're in Gothgate, Enigma, yeah, straight up. Because I am currently in the process of normalizing the perception of goth as not this left-wing extremist wing of leftist and liberal ideologies and talking points that are filled with those that are, narcissistic, authoritarian women. I'm sort of showing the world at the moment, not to fucking blow my own horn here, I'm not saying it like that. What I'm saying is that the very abrupt rise of me at the moment is good because the message I carry is far bigger than me. It's so much more important. I'm trying to make sure that subcultures make it through this cataclysmic shift that we're going through at the moment. I want people to be like, well, goths look like those leftist Antifa shitheads, so goth is probably too. No, goth is one of those cherished subcultures, one of those cherished art forms where, teenagers get to express themselves in any way that they wish. And there's a lot of people, adults, who have find a lot of ways to express themselves within goth. It's an art form, it's music. It's literature. I want you to stay optimistic, okay? This is absolutely the time, well, that we should be striking, okay? You think an alt-right nationalist goth could have risen back in 2020? Absolutely fucking not. The fact that I'm
Ew, gross. Also, fair point with him kind of talking like Elon Musk. He does literally fucking talk like Elon Musk. Holy shit. He's not cool enough to be goth. He's emo. He does read as quite emo coded. It's, you know, I hate to say Black Parade, because that's obviously insulting to that incredible era of music, but it's giving more that than anything else. But still, with that being said, if what goth is doing on its surface level is turning people off because they're like, oh, they're weirdo shitheads, they might even be leftists, like, isn't that like a good thing? You know, I thought goth culture and sort of whatever you hold dear about goth culture was supposed to like keep the normies away and keep people, I don't know, just sort of like at a distance and sort of like out of the culture. I thought you were all about gatekeeping. I thought you were like pro gatekeeping and that alternative subcultures were very much into sort of like, you know, pushing people out that didn't sort of like, you know, want to be willing to kind of like feed into what the subculture is all about. This other point that this person is kind of saying here in this comment of like Gothgate, it seems Gothgate is no more than like these right-wing subculture morons can't really envision sort of fighting their, ever since Gamergate, they can't sort of envision fighting for or advocating for anything unless a gate is fucking attached to it. Everything's got to be a gate. It's got to be a this gate. It's got to be a that gate. It's got to be this other gate. It's all going to be a, yeah, he made it up. It's like literally a made up thing. Gate. There's no Gothgate. Has someone been found out at Goth HQ to be kind of controlling the narrative? You're coming on stream looking like this, talking like this, acting like this, and it's the women who are narcissistic. We have to worry about the women being narcissists, ruining goth culture, and like, this is literally you. Are you like a little goth doll and you've got like this crack in your cheek? You're like, oh my God, he's like a little porcelain doll, except the time he fell on the floor, he cracked his cheek that one time. Look, I don't speak on this as somebody who considers himself goth, obviously, but you know, I hear more people in the community itself complaining about like the way the look and the aesthetic and the style has been sort of like fetishized on social media and through like short form and you know, OnlyFans and so on and so forth. I sort of hear that pretty repeatedly as like more of an issue with goth culture on the internet today, as opposed to like what narcissistic women are doing. It just sort of seems like that's a label and a critique Jake is throwing at the very people who are trying to like kind of kick him out in a way because they find him very annoying and very grating, and he's got a bit of a weird past about him from what I've seen. But, you know, listen, shout out to any goth women who are fighting the good fight to keep Jake Munro out of goth. You have my full support. This is why movies and video games suck now. Like, hold on, let me guess. Is it because there's like not enough boobs?
Man, there's not enough boobs in my games now, and there's too many people who aren't white.
Is that why movies and video games suck now? Not enough white people, not enough boobs now. This guy literally does not have an original fucking idea in his head. Oh yeah, this is Moviegate.
Is everyone making the same Concord game again and again?
I will tell you exactly why. There was this assumption around 2020 to 2022 that the vast majority were all going to fall for the woke programming, and then we were going to be ideological slop consumers. They assumed that the propaganda was...
Okay, really huge fucking ironic comment there. Like, you watch this, you follow Jake, you pay to comment on his stream, and you're like, yeah, guys, watch out for the ideological slop consumers. Make sure that you guys aren't consuming ideological slop. Be wary of all the ideological slop out there on the internet. Not here, though. Not here on Jake's stream. You're not getting ideological slop over here. I've never seen more fucking projection.
Going to work. They assumed that the propaganda was going to program the vast majority of Western civilization, and we were going to consume the ideological bullshit that they were going to be releasing purely on the basis that it is an ideological pile of shit. So whether or not these movies were good, these sequels were good, whether or not any of these things were good was irrelevant. The fact is that they had crammed it full of representation, identity politics, gender politics, all this fucking woke nonsense, and we were going to consume it based on this. Their plan failed horrendously whenever everybody woke up and started rejecting woke. So everything they had lined up, every game, every movie, every TV show, fell flat.
Okay, first off, like, not only does this not make sense in terms of, like, I don't know, the current titles of pop media that are, like, doing really well and are, like, provably successful at the moment, like, would Jake and his ilk not see a show like, let's say, for example, chat, please respond. Would they not see a show like Heated Rivalry as being like a woke show? Yeah, it's a woke show. The Boys is a woke show. Actually, I'll make the case Heated Rivalry not woke because that show's for the dudes. It's a show for men. No, it's what Jake and his kind have always wanted. No girls allowed. That's what Heated Rivalry is all about. It's the logical endpoint of their desires. But either way, like, is that a show that has fallen flat? Is that an irrelevant show that nobody cares about right now? Is that a show that people are like, oh man, this woke bullshit over here, fuck this. I don't want to have anything to do with this wokeness. It's a massively popular show. Where is this sort of like, falling flat of all the allegedly woke media that's going on right now? There's like some pretty woke shows right now that are very, very popular. And, again, if Jake and his kind did actually like get rid of the wokeness in whatever shows or so on and so forth that they hate so much, especially like, maybe these comic book movies and that sort of thing, which is like what these kinds of morons are usually bitching about. Like, a lot of those movies would still be derivative and boring and uninspired. The left does not respond to people being in the center. What if my center position is immigrants are fine and I don't want them being shot, attacked, abducted, and dragged out into the middle of the street? Is that a Marxist-Leninist take? Interesting take over here. Jake saying weed might be holding you back. Goth culture, guys like Robert Smith, for example. Robert Smith, famously straight edge. I know exactly. It is a shame what happened to the I Like Turtles kid. What happened to him? He fell down an alt-right pipeline.
Don't do that. I would strongly suggest you get the fuck off it. See, the problem is that from my observations, people use weed to numb the impending constant crisis of their mind telling them to fucking do something with their life. People's minds very typically will constantly have this running clock that will remind them or pressure them to do something with their short amount of time. It's innate. It's in everybody, almost everybody with an IQ over 95. Everyone has this. You see it with like adult gamers and people who like do things for like 12 hours a day that are not productive. They're usually weed smokers as well, because doing something for that long per day that does not have any fucking productive value to it whatsoever is going to drive that inner voice insane. So they have to smoke weed because weed silences that voice. It numbs the part of the brain that reminds you that you have a small amount of time in your adulthood to get fucking things done.
I'm no stranger to, and I don't think it's like entirely made up, the idea that somebody might use a substance to cope with something. That's not an alien concept. But the idea that people are only using it to avoid the nagging feeling that I should do something is very funny to me. There's actually, depending on what weed you smoke and depending on what kind of person you are, there are people who find themselves to be, pretty creative or even productive when they've maybe smoked a little weed. Of course, everything in moderation, and everything affects every single person differently. And, do what you want to do at the end of the day, as long as you're safe and not hurting others. His least bad take so far, that's kind of a low bar, though. That's a really low bar. True. I also love Jake's emphasis here on doing something of value, doing something of importance here. Is Jake doing anything of importance right now? Like, what is Jake known for other than arguing with other people in Goth? Is making Goth great again truly his calling? Like, is that really what the world needs right now? Is that what's going to fix everything? He's saving Goth culture one shitty stream at a time. Men need to take their power back. Y'all, your hero of masculinity is here. Are there any men? Are there any disenfranchised men in the audience? I'm a child of the 80s and early 90s when I grew up, and You know, I was looking at various male figures on the TV that were held up as pinnacles of masculinity, be they either an Arnold Schwarzenegger, be it a Hulk Hogan, or even be it, you know, the culture of bodybuilding and also powerlifting that I was very much raised in as a result of my father. You know, a lot of the time, while that stuff was, you know, it was big, it was burly, it was strong, it was musky, but it never really it never really quite felt like enough. I was like, you know, this isn't manly enough. All these 400 pound men benching and squatting 1,000 pounds, they're all kind of pussies. I need a dude who looks like this. Jake, please educate me. Please, I'm begging you.
With our choice of language and how we operate here, because you don't want to victimize yourself as a man from the perspective that we are being oppressed. You don't want to do the very feminine woe is me thing, feel sorry for me. The fact is that no one feels sorry for men. That's the whole point, right? And men don't want to be felt sorry for, which is why whenever a man gets his power back, it's not given to him by any of these other groups like feminists or anything like that. It's not like when women want to get their liberties. It's not like when these ethnic minorities get their liberties where we have to give it to them. They don't like achieve it themselves. They have to convince us to let them have more power, more liberties, or more control, more choice, more than we even by this point. Men, however, we're not going to get that. We're not going to get that liberty. We're not going to get that benefit. These feminists and these foreign invaders are not going to hear our side of the story and be like, oh, do you know what, right, white man, we're sorry, and then give us an opportunity to then, you know, get into positions of power where there's not enough white men or whatever. They're not going to do that.
What the fuck is Jake's point here? And what does he think the power dynamic currently is at the moment? Is he currently under the presumption that white men are not in places of power or influence right now? He's just fucking yapping, man. He's just not really saying anything. Okay, so men have lost their power, but they shouldn't complain like women about it. They should just take it back through whatever means they need to. Jake's probably not going to say. It's probably against TOS and probably would be pretty extreme as well. But yeah, that's quite creepy. Now, see, as I've said before, this is like really a sign that a goth man has no goth women or goth non-binary individuals in his life, because I feel like if he did, they'd be going up to him and saying, twin, fam, your makeup's kind of busted, brother. We need to fix that. We need to do something. Yes, he has no goth friends, which again is very funny and very ironic because his whole mission is to make goth great again. But how do you do that by yourself? You're trying to save a subculture and save a community that for the most part doesn't want to have anything to do with you. The left's purity test. Let's see about these purity tests. Gothic chunk.
It's amazing because I obviously released that clip being like the left do not respond well to people being in the center. And then Denims went ahead and made that fucking post calling Emiru a fucking racist because they did that purity thing. They do this with every streamer. They've always done it. Can you say free Palestine, please? And they come into your chat and they do this. I remember streaming back in 2018.
No, Jake, nobody gives a shit about you saying free Palestine.
Can you say trans rights, please? And they'd make you say it. And if you
they make you say
then
it.
You'd be fucking
oh my God, they make you say it. No, they make you say it. No. The agony, the horror. Oh no, they make you say it. They make you say trans rights. They hold you down. I wish a bunch of goth chicks would run into this room. Oh no, wait, okay. Hey, listen, hey, I would hate it if a bunch of goth chicks ran in here and held me down and made me say trans rights. I'd hate that. Don't do it. No. If a bunch of big boobed goth girls came in here and held me down and said, hey, say trans rights. Fuck. This is Jake's other style of video over here. He likes to turn up in this white room and sort of like do these little shoots from like different camera angles. He looks like Hobson. No, it's very Hobson coded.
Being degraded. Constantly being reminded that they are a potential predator, a potential criminal, and they have an innate sense of violence. And at any point, they could snap. And they're going to be on the front news, headlines, that kind of stuff. You've killed a bunch of people. Even if you don't, everyone around you is going to be afraid that you're gonna. Yeah? Women are going to be afraid of you all the time. Everyone in society is going to be afraid of you. You're always going to be seen as a potential criminal, a potential misogynist. Your potential is constantly and always being viewed as you're going to do something offensive or violent at any point, regardless of their intentions. Imagine a young boy being told this.
Yeah, I have to imagine it because it's not fucking happening, dude. I love how his proposition is like, this is happening. And then after the end of all of it, after the end of this insane scenario that he's completely made up in his fucking head, he's imagined in improv right in front of you in front of a couple of cameras. Imagine this happening. Imagine this happening. And now act in the world as if it is. Thank you. I'm Jake Munro. That's my time. That's my type 5. Look, Jake, just because people notice that things like mass shooting statistics, grape statistics, so on and so forth, skew very male. People are sort of analyzing that data and making prescriptions and proposing solutions in terms of like how we kind of attack these epidemics and what tendencies are sort of like, you know, happening culturally, what things are being kind of learned or communicated culturally that might predispose people to doing these things. That doesn't mean that all boys and all men are being told, you're a future mass shooter. This is not what is happening in the real world. You're completely making up a fantasy in terms of like what men are suffering. And are there things that men struggle with in the real world and things that are working against them in society and the system, so on and so forth? Sure, you know, and those things can be discussed and analyzed. The shrinking of the middle class, workers' rights being deteriorated, union membership being down, so on and so forth. The inability to be able to provide for and raise a family in the modern time because of how we're all being squeezed by capitalism. But this has nothing to do with being presumed to be a potential mass shooter, Jake. Jake, as funny as it is that he sort of like pretends to be very sensitive toward the needs and sort of like, you know, the plights of men, he himself will very much turn around and reinforce social structures and expectations that boys traditionally would be held to. That, did I already use the word ironically, but double ironically, if it continues, this sort of like, you know, fascist encroachment on us right now, politically and culturally, will eventually turn around and eat his face because nobody in the right wing wants a fucking loser decked out in like doll face white makeup and reverse fucking contact lenses and lipstick, bro. Bro leaves the house like this all the time. No way. He's only got to do this for YouTube and for streams. Like you think he really leaves the house like this? Maybe to go to a show, but I don't know what goth show he's going to where he's like allowed in and people like him. Maybe a Ronald Radke performance, maybe a Marilyn Manson show. Unfortunately, the outfit does look great. I think it's very sort of like Joker coded. It's simple, it's effective. It does not take a fashionable mind to put this together. It's you know, cool menswear. It's a little Kraftwerkian, I'll say. What is this, kind of like the Man Machine cover? If he walked into a goth show near me, I'd assume he's an undercover cop. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. He's like a goth, if a goth were an undercover cop. Also, I'm going to presume, looking at this, that that Jake does not follow lace code. I think lace code is dead. And if you know what that is in chat, you'll probably have a little bit of a giggle at this frame. Let's see what Jake is saying here.
Now, how about we talk about the alt-left pipeline real quick? What's that for? I'll tell you who it's for. It's for groomers. Shall I run through some examples? Because I have some.
Run through
Pride
some examples, Jake.
Butt naked in public, in front of children. The cycling butt naked, we've seen this before. We've got examples of this. Cross-dressing drag queens reading and performing to children.
Oh my God. How many drag queens are in the Epstein files, Jake? You know, it's weird. I was really looking for that. I was really searching for it. Just Googling it, writing all the drag performers' names in there. Not a single one of their names came up, weirdly enough.
Blue Sky immediately being overrun with underage sexual content.
Okay, as opposed to Twitter?
In which camp do you think the term minor attracted people came from? Was it the alt-right camp? Was it right-wingers? Was it conservatives?
Are the groypers not like completely going in on how much they love Jeffrey Epstein right now? I am very curious as to what the fuck narc femmes are and how they are exactly in infesting goth.
You see, people don't really know exactly how depraved the left have become. How authoritarian, how totalitarian, how fascist they've become. They don't realize this. They just think, oh, but you know, goth was all about inclusivity. What the fuck about modern goth seems inclusive to you? The only...
Okay, I mean, that's kind of the point that I made earlier, but, you know, Jake seems to really get pissed off and get upset when the exclusivity of modern goth, of any kind of goth, centers around him. When he's the one being excluded, Jake immediately goes to, oh man, goth is so full of rules now. Goth sucks, man. There's too many purity tests in goth. And now Jake is like, oh, what the fuck do you think is so inclusive about goth? Goth is not about being inclusive. And it's like, well, which one fucking is it, dude? Like, can you decide what the fuck is the struggle? Is goth too inclusive or is it not inclusive enough? I don't want to put too many words in Jake's mouth, but I personally have a feeling, I have a guess that in goth music, the exclusivity that he's fine with is the kind of exclusivity that would prevent maybe a foreigner from being goth or somebody who's not white. Or, you know, the kind of exclusivity that would prevent women from having maybe as much of a say in the culture as men. And the sort of inclusivity that Jake does like, that he is fine with, because, you know, sometimes you can't be too exclusive. You don't want to exclude everybody. Jake is basically fine with the sort of inclusivity that would allow someone like him to exist in the culture with no repercussions whatsoever for anything that he might say or do. That, I think, is like kind of the inclusivity, exclusivity dynamic Jake is specifically seeking. He just can't quite get it. He does look like the fucking Turtles kid. I'm saying this, and not enough people say this on the internet. Please, if you guys walk away from this piece of content, from this stream, with anything, and you actually care about my heart of hearts, it would warm my soul and heal my spirit for me to be able to go online, and when I run across organically a piece of Jake Munro content, I want to see two things. I want to see somebody saying, you look like the fucking Turtles kid. Number one, I don't want to say it. I want it to be said before I even say anything. You look like the fucking Turtles kid, number one. And number two, you are a chopped goth unk. Okay? That is like literally all, those are the two things that I want to see. Chopped goth unk, and two, you look like the fucking turtle kid. Okay? You're a chopped goth turtle unk.
They never have to explain themselves. They never have to defend their ideologies. So if they can curate the population of goth in online spaces, and it's all people that think and believe the things that they do, then they get to rule it. They get to own it. Such as a narcissist.
Yeah, they believe things, and they are they, and they do believe the things that they do. And if you don't believe the things that they believe, then do you have to believe this or the believe that? And if you don't believe this and that, you're not going to be able to go in, because they will tell you not to be able to be goth, because that is what they do. They are they, and they are saying and believing things that they believe because they want everyone who is goth to believe them. But I'm saying, no, I believe other things that I believe, and them are they are things that they believe them. So there you go. Great, Jake. Thank you very much. Just incredible points that you're making here. It's just, really big boy IQ shit that you're educating people on. Listen, guys, remember, regardless of what you see out there on the internet, this is truly now and forever will be the #1 Jake Munro hate channel. There's no other like it. There's no other better out there on the internet.